On this week's program, Wizard goes boom, can't find his brain with a 10-foot pole. The generic one whines about meanies on the internet. The flamboyant one doesn't like girls. Shocker. Peter Snell thinks he has a golden idea and it's more of a golden shower. And RumpDM attempts to escape his destiny. Welcome everyone to the Final Intelligence as a Dump Stat of 2025. I'm Daniel, this is Driving and Dragons, and today we explore all of those little idiocies that tend to pop up in the world of D&D and other TTRPG forums, pages, and groups online. Not gonna lie, this week was tough. I had to dig deep to unwrap the Christmas presents of idiotic takes on gaming. At first, I thought I would be on the list myself for neglecting to collect idiotic comments throughout the week, but when I went digging back late last night, I found out that I wasn't to blame for this. Call it a Christmas miracle, but the TTRPG world really wasn't that stupid last week. Or rather, instead of talking about gaming and TTRPG culture, most of us were embroiled in the annual Christmas stupidity of uneducated internet secularists who claim to be about facts and history while posting things about Christmas that feature neither of those things. For those who missed it, you should have to suffer this kind of stupidity too, so here is a list of easily debunked moronic things we get to correct every year. Christmas is a cover-up for winter solstice festivals, Christmas is based on Saturnalia, Christmas is covering up the birth of Mithras, Christmas is covering up the birth of Saul Invictus, Santa Claus is Odin, Jesus didn't exist, and here is an incredibly idiotic new one, Jesus was a Muslim. Well, he's God, so I guess he could travel in time 500 years into the future to join a poisonous cult that grew out of the ass of his Jewish lineage. But, I digress. Point is that every last one of these is so easily and often debunked, it's not even funny. And it gets obnoxious year after year. But I did manage to get some good gaming takes. So let's buckle up, knock out the housekeeping, and get going. Wednesday, New Year's Eve, I will be sitting here for 5 hours from 7 p.m. Central Standard Time till midnight on a live stream just for you guys. There are several other TTRPG YouTube folks and some of the authors from Corvid Codex Volume 1 who have all been invited to pop in, so who knows who might show up and sit in throughout the night. I sure hope at least a few do, because 5 hours is a long time for me to ramble on about dice and monster games. Join me throughout the evening as we say goodbye to 2025. While you're here, like, share, subscribe, hype, comment, all the good stuff that pushes the video up in the YouTube algorithms. From what I hear, the hype button is really important for smaller channels because it appears that hyping the video actually triggers YouTube to promote it more aggressively to a channel's subs and to viewers of related content. So it's kind of like a like bumping it up in the algorithm, but very targeted and making sure that the other subscribers to the channel get it pushed in their feed. If you want to be part of our car project, or if you just like what I do here and you want to show your support, my Patreon is linked in the description. YouTube memberships are available, and super stickers, chats, and thanks are always very much appreciated. So on with the show. We're going to start with a dishonorable mention from last week. It barely missed out as the Bro SR came in clutch, but enough of you wanted to hear it, so here it is. Bill the Dungeon Delver is very well respected for his encyclopedic knowledge of everything Dungeons & Dragons that came out prior to 2nd edition. In particular, he's kind of seen as the undisputed authority on AD&D. He's also a bit of a nerd elitist who speaks about 1E with an almost religious, can do no wrong, all the decisions made were good ones kind of fervor. Well, I was hanging out in the chat over on Dunder Moose's stream on the 16th, and the topic of the 1 HP fighter came up. Of course, this led to the just hire a bunch of mercenaries to help clear the dungeon so you can survive. See, 1E has answers for everything kind of conversation. I snidely remarked in the chat that I remembered the parts in all those Appendix N stories where the heroes just hired people to do the work for them, like when Frodo hired Bob the Fighter to go destroy the ring while he sat back at Hobbiton. And Bill actually stepped in 2 cow pies at once in his rush to roll his eyes and shout, "Well, actually." Yeah, like when Aragorn went to Moranon by himself and told Imrail to leave his 5,000 lancers at Minas Tirith. Have you seen where Bill did the old open mouth insert foot thing yet? First off, this isn't remotely close to the same, nor is a king leading his army hirelings. But second, Billy Boy, you're supposed to be a great authority on AD&D. And yet you can't even tell the difference between a first-level adventurer hiring mercs and a high-level king acting on the domain level within his kingdom. This is why thinking before we speak is important. It helps prevent us from looking stupid and ending up on a list like this. No wonder Bill couldn't handle the far superior mechanics of 3.5. Speaking of old school guys talking about old school gaming, Sandy Peterson made an observation. He commented about how the 10-foot pole is a dumb item and he saw no reason to ever carry one instead of simply using a spear, and he's right. From a mechanical perspective, the longer spears have the same reach. From a real-world perspective, 10 feet is very much in the average range of historical spear length. Well, Wizard Goes Boom, he decided that he was going to comment before looking things up, and he stepped in at 2 as a result. 10 feet were necessary to be outside the area of the trap effect. Spears aren't that long. I pointed out, yes, in fact, they were. Now, here as an aside, I'm not going to get into the extremely idiotic exchange I had in his replies where some Nimrod wanted to play semantics about how the exact historical examples I gave were not listed out in the player's handbook. But I'll mention it just to give you all some wonderful viewers, a piece of advice. If the only argument that you have is some kind of obtuse literalism, like saying, I see spear in the player's handbook, but I don't see long spear or war spear anywhere. Where is that? Then just stay silent. You don't have a point, and you will only look like a dickhead or a fool by trying to, by posting that. Here's the facts. Egyptian, Persian foot soldiers, even as far back as the 3rd millennia BC, used spears in the 8 to 10 foot range. Greek hoplites used spears from 8 to 12 feet, with the Macedonian army using spears as long as 22 feet. Viking raiders typically carried shorter 7-foot spears, but in larger war bands, the spears were 9 to 12 foot that showed up in the shield wall. To carry it back to a direct parallel to D&D, the term short spear or half spear, depending on which language we're translating from, German, Swedish, whatever, it's all referring to spears that are kind of in the 6 to 9 foot range. So that's right, the short spear in D&D is almost long enough to be the 10-foot pole. In 3.5 terms, the PHB had a short spear, a spear, and a long spear, in which the spear and long spear would both serve the purpose of a 10-foot pole. So yeah, Sandy was right on this one. And our good buddy Wizard, well, he won't have to access very many spells with an intelligence like that. Generic Ginny D decided to opine this week, and as is usual, it was both whiny and stupid. Ginny D probably gets a kinder shake here than she does on most other kind of grognard-esque gaming channels. I'll say it pretty often. Generic Ginny is the perfect name for her because when it comes to very basic, unobjectionable milquetoast takes on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, there's nothing wrong there. She lacks the experience and knowledge to provide any real insight or depth, but that isn't her brand or her audience, so it's fine. But when she tries to venture beyond the realm of very basic color in the lines, 5e gameplay, or if anything brushes up against a social issue, it goes south real quick. And behind that very carefully constructed facade of a geeky girl next door is a thin-skinned, narcissistic, shrill harpy. If you haven't heard or seen it before, dig up her long-buried history with the mermaid cosplay community where she was more or less driven out for being a mean girl thought. She don't have the door knocker nose ring to match her green hair, but trust me, guys, it's in there. This time she came out against the people who literally write her paychecks. Creators, we need to demand that brands we work with moderate their comment sections. Companies hire creators and let them get ripped apart by dogs in the comments. Stand by the people you choose. Yeah, that's right. You know, if you disagree with her, you're a dog, or if you don't like her stuff, dog. Ginny, hun, you get a check to be the face for a brand. That brand's customers or potential customers are well within their rights to express their displeasure over those decisions. And guess what? Those companies need that. They don't need people to just quietly stop buying their products and not give them the reason. They need to know that they stopped buying Bud Light because they hired a troon that nobody likes and tried to ram it down their throats. That's called market research, and it's important information. They kind of need to have it. It's part of the gig. You want to demand that as a condition of cashing a paycheck, that the company hiring you has to step in and fight the battles that you brought on yourself with your own comments and actions? It's not how it works. Pull up your big girl panties and understand that barring threats of violence or commentary that's outside the scope of what that brand allows in their comments to start with, people being mean in the comments is just part of the job. Believe you me, I don't even get ad revenue yet, and I assure you that I will get a simp in my comments calling me all manner of istphobogynist for daring to point out that nobody feels sorry for you, ruining your makeup, crying into your wad of sponsorship money. Well, now that I have rage-baited the white knights to call me a misogynist for daring to attack their darling Jenny, let's piss off the Myron Gaines side of the internet too. RDubs, a.k.a. Mr. Flamboyant. Just how flamboyant? Well, I have questions given how he speaks concerning girls at the gaming table. I think he may be that guy who joined the Bro SR because he figured a boys club would have a locker room that he could hang out in and kind of spy around on. Why do girls ruin Dungeons & Dragons without actually trying? There has never been a D&D session that worked if a girl was involved. I'm sorry, but I've never heard anything short of a glowing review of a game with, say, Harmony Ginger in it, Eclectic Goat, some of these other folks, and you got people lining up to go be in their convention games. Come to think of it, in almost 30 years of playing TTRPGs, I have never once had an issue from a female player. Ever. I've kicked several whiny beta male douchebags for turning their prick dial up to 11 the instant a set of tits shows up at the table, though. Pretty sure that there's a common denominator here. You know, all the D&D sessions that RDubs shares with a member of the fairer sex fall apart. Maybe, just maybe, it's the social ineptitude of a particular player being intimidated by the girl with the pink dice tower. Or, maybe RDubs just doesn't want the competition. Who knows. Either way, RDubs is, I believe, the only Bro SR clown that I have blocked, and that's for a good reason. The rest are generally good dudes playing up their nonsense on the internet for clicks with idiotic gaming ideas, and RDubs is just a dick. Stepping away from X, we journey into the realm of Facebook D&D groups and find one Peter Schnell. Now, he could mean this in kind of a sardonic, self-effacing irony, but I seriously doubt it. The same folks who complain about handicapped people in D&D because it's unrealistic are the ones who think the average person has seen more than a handful of gold in their life. He seems like he's trying to make a good point, but of course he isn't. First things first, nobody actually wants cripples around. Those who are crippled don't want to be, and therefore if easy access to that, the means to correct it exists, they're going to jump on that. Second off, no lord or village is going to want them around either. Sure, they may be goodly people who care for them and treat them with respect when there's no help for their condition, but they would much rather have an able-bodied contributing member of society and the labor force, and would universally resent someone who simply decides to ride the charity train instead of going to the temple and getting their legs fixed so they can get their butt back out in the field. As for the gold, while I am one of the first and loudest voices about being more realistic in how you handle money in your games, this comment is just another example of a misuse of the term realistic. Realistic in TTRPG parlance doesn't mean works like it does or did in real life. It means that it follows a consistent logic and one thing follows another. For instance, combat wheelchairs are utterly unrealistic, not because magic couldn't make one, but because either A, there is sufficient magic in the world that healing spells would have ensured that they were never invented, or B, magic isn't that prevalent, and no one would ever risk their own life and success on including a disadvantaged member in their adventuring group. I'm sorry, Iphalates, but you can't hold a shield high enough to cover the Spartan next to you. We can't use you. Gold, on the other hand, at least in a D&D context, is simply another is an abstraction, just like a lot of our other rules are abstractions. We're replacing what would be a wealth of different currencies and exchange rates. I'll let that one simmer for you. We're taking the intricacies of international currency and monetary systems and replacing them with a simple to understand medium of exchange, so we can do more goblin slaying and layer looting and less measuring purity of coins to figure out how many brass dwarven half crowns equal elven silver pennies to figure out how many we need to convert into 10 markers to use in the nation of Zith. This isn't the own you think it is, Peter. Last up, we have RumpDM. It may well be Rump's last appearance on the list, guys. It would appear that he has hidden himself away, no longer able to stand the heat, and he has buried his head from the scathing criticism his ideas bring from the world. As I said before, the TTRPG world was not very forthcoming with stupid takes last week, so I went to dip into the overflowing well of witless nonsense that is RumpDM's X account, and I found this. Gasp. RumpDM has locked himself in his echo chamber with only confirmed followers able to see his posts. I, of course, requested access because he's currently in the lead for Dumbest of the Dumb, and I would hate to see this deal a devastating blow to his title run. It's a sad, sad day when a member of the Bro SR actually displays shame. Well, the shame that all of them should really feel. That's it for this week and for this year, guys. I have got my BC headache powder handy. Now, I just need several Red Bulls to make sure I don't fizzle out on Wednesday, because, boy, I better have some folks show up, because 5 hours is a long time for me to ramble by myself. I'll see you guys there, and if I don't, have a happy new year.